Talmor, Shishin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Alison Larkin, writer, comedian, narrator, and host of the Jane Austen podcast. Join me as we embark on a journey through Austen's timeless stories, starting with Pride and Prejudice. The Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Coming In, the podcast where I talk to fellow actors about their journey and then they share with me an audition story or two. We have a lot of fun each week. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you're listening to it right now and leave us some love. As I mentioned last week, I am pre-recording these as I'll be on set, so I won't have time to do this then. So here we are, friends. We are pre-recording. What do I have going on? I have been doing trapeze every Sunday at my friend's house, and it has been so much fun and so difficult, and I have so many bruises everywhere. It's honestly alarming. But it's so fun, and I love it so much, and it's just a great way to get a full workout in. And I'm getting better, and I feel very proud of that. Anywho's a call. Today on the show, we have Keith Arthur Bolden. He has been in so much. Just to shout out a few of my favorite shows he's been in. He's been in The Haunting of Hill House, Cobra Kai, Lovecraft Country, and he has a new show called Terror Lake Drive, which is on All Black, a fantastic network. If you haven't checked them out, you definitely should. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Keith. And welcome to the show, Keith.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited to have you here. You have been in some of my favorite television shows, so I cannot wait to get to that.
Yeah.
But first off, I just want you to kind of introduce yourself to our listeners. You have such an extensive history in this business, and I would love for them to know what got you into this world and why you chose acting as your full-time profession.
Wow. It chose me in a wild way. That's a longer story. But it's funny, you get to this point and people look at you and they say you have a career. And as an artist, I'm just doing the work. You never know if you're making the right choice sometimes, or if this choice will lead to another choice. So you just keep doing the work, keep your head down, and you look up. Oh, I'm on some TV shows. We've got some billboards happening, So I think that I know that I have been an artist my whole life, even though it was not cultivated in my home. Not in a negative way, I just think my parents couldn't wrap their mind around this young black kid wanting to sew or wanting to dance or wanting to be on TV, And so I wrote my first play before I'd even seen a play.
What?
Yeah, it's wild. My parents were avid churchgoers, and so was I. Grew up at a church in Los Angeles called Crenshaw Christian Center, non-denominational, and they were talking about Christmas. They were talking about the birth of Christ, and I want to write a play about the birth of Christ, and I did. I produced it in my living room with my cousins. I have a lot of cousins. My mom it was 13 brothers and sisters, so I have a lot of cousins.
Oh, my Lanta.
First cousin. Yeah.
God bless your grandmother.
And so we did it. The play was like 20 minutes long. We did a command performance right after because there were some family members who were late.
Yeah.
And so we did it, but nobody from those people in attendance, nobody's looked at it and said, hey, you know what? I think he's got something. I think we should put him in school. It was just, I did that thing and just went away. And
Hmm.
so it went dormant for years. But prior to that, I was drawing. I was just trying to do everything to express myself.
That's so interesting. I wonder if your family just thought, well, he has a extensive imagination.
Probably, probably, but it's a generational thing. My all of my aunts and uncles are from Louisiana,
Mm.
Natchitoches, Louisiana, which is the oldest parish in Louisiana, which I just visited last week. And it's interesting driving through that state and thinking about all the enslaved people who have been there, and that's how my
Yeah.
family got there. And I don't
Yeah.
even know how the history of it. And so they were civil workers, hard workers, blue collar workers, lower than blue collar workers. And they moved to. I had one aunt who moved to Los Angeles to get things started, and then just sent for her brothers and sisters. And they and they
Wow.
and they and they kind of we kind of our family migrated to Los Angeles, not for hopes and dreams of being actors, but actually, John Wayne shot. They shot a movie in Natchitoches, Louisiana, a Western movie.
No way.
They needed some poor-looking black kids, and my mom was in that movie, and so were some of my aunts and uncles.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but not really knowing what they were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so my mom used to dance on Soul Train. So I think there was an artistic undercurrent in my family.
Heck yeah. I mean, Mama was in a movie.
Yeah, yeah, and she used to dance with Rerun. She used to pop lock, do her
There we
thing.
go.
But I don't think anybody they just didn't put any work behind. They just didn't know how to
Right.
access that world. And so I just think they wanted me to get a job, get my degree. They didn't care
Hmm.
what it was in, so I can get a job, a civil service job, so I can retire. Like most people do,
Yeah.
want to get a job and a pension and stuff like that. And so when I went to college, like when as a journalism major,
Oh,
because
wow.
I wanted to be a film critic because I never thought that I could actually be in film, but I love movies.
Wow.
And then the, they brought in the first African American professor in the theater department at Fresno State, where I attended.
Hmm.
He came around to the university one-on-one classes and recruited for a play he was directing called The Color Museum by George C. Wolfe.
Hmm.
And I went and auditioned. I got cast, and I changed my major.
Yeah. You caught the bug.
I caught the bug. I was still having fun, and it didn't really dawn on me. That was 1991.
Hmm.
It didn't really settle in until 3 years after graduate school in
Wow.
2004.
Wow.
What it really took to be a working artist, to do something with your nose, to not let your nose get you down,
Yeah.
right? As you get nose, keep your nose up, So
Hmm.
um, I so my career is a surprise to me. I think a lot of my family too.
Yeah. I
So
love what
that's
you just said. If you get nose, keep your nose up.
I just came up with that one.
Yeah, we're gonna write that down, and
Write that down.
you need to copyright that and put it on some shirts and start selling it.
Yes, yes. I'll
Um,
tell my wife to jump on that now. Hey,
yeah,
hon.
get the cricket out. Okay, um, that's amazing.
Yeah,
It's interesting. So you didn't really fully dive into it then until after graduate school. What did you go to graduate school for?
I went to the University of Illinois, Champaign Urbana, where I met
Mm.
my wife,
Oh,
and for the first year and a half, we kept booking shows together. We weren't married yet. We had just started dating right before we graduated, like a month before we graduated, and unbeknownst to any of the producers, we kept auditioning for things, and we kept getting cast together.
that is
Um,
adorable.
yeah, one thing in particular, I like telling this short story. I'll tell the short version. I was going to move to Chicago. We had done a tour of a children's theater piece called A Reading Odyssey.
Mm.
It was, based on the Homer's Odyssey.
Hmm.
And so it was just me and her. We put 30,000 miles on a car in 2.5 months, driving throughout the South, going to libraries, right?
This is
And
so cute. I'm
I
gonna
tell,
cry.
oh, go ahead, go ahead. Uh, and I tell her this. I say there are a lot of relationships that failed in the pandemic, right?
Mm.
People started to realize the person they were living with was not the person they thought they were.
Hmm.
I tell my wife, I say, in that summer, we spent the equivalent of 10 years together. because
It's
couples
true.
don't, they only come together at nighttime, and go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and they live for the weekends. But
Yeah.
30,000 miles, you only put 12,000 miles on a car in a year usually,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a lot of time we spent
That's
together,
a
and that's
lot
the
of time.
basis of our relationship, right? But I was moving to Chicago. I was going to move to Chicago. She got a job at St. Louis Black Repertory Theater, and she was moving. I went to my first day of rehearsal at Child's Play Theater in Chicago. Great day of rehearsal. And
Mm.
in the day, they took us in to sign our contracts. We were standing in line. I think I was third. While I was waiting, I got a phone call on my Nextel phone.
Yes.
It was a St. Louis it was a St. Louis Black rep. I had submitted, unbeknownst to Tinashe at the time, I had submitted my headshot and resume,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Um, and they called me right before I walked in with a straight offer to join the traveling company for that year.
Oh
They
my
didn't know I was
gosh.
with her, right? So I go into the room. I say, "Hey, I've had an amazing day here, but I just got this job offer where my girlfriend is gonna go, and I'm kind of in love with this girl. And it was a brother. I can't remember his name. He took my contract. He said, 'Go get her.'"
Oh my God, stop.
I didn't even talk to her about it. And I left. I said, "Well, thanks." I hadn't even stayed a night in my apartment yet. I moved
Oh
in the
my
day
God.
before, and I stayed with her and her dad in Evanston, and then I went to work from there, and I had to move out subsequently, move out of that apartment. So yeah, we got a bit of a story. That's just
Oh
part
my
of
God, that is so beautiful and so cute. And I need some freaking tissues. I didn't know I
it.
was
Oh
gonna need
no,
tissues for this. Okay, we're good. We're good. Um, that's the most amazing, beautiful love story. I'm so happy for you guys.
it's
Okay,
still going. It's
I
still
love
going.
that. I love that. So, okay, you're traveling, you're doing theater, doing all this. Did you come back out to LA? How did the
Mm,
TV career kind of start? Because you've done so many roles on so many different television shows, and you've had some great
yeah.
arcs on some of them too. So, when did that come into play for you?
I did. Okay, so I lived in did time. I did time in St. Louis. I did time in Richmond. I did time in New York. I did time in Pennsylvania. I did time in LA.
Whew.
I've done all these places, right? And first 3 years, I did children's theater,
Mm,
which for me, cutting my teeth doing that, children are the most honest audience you're gonna get.
true.
And I played a lot of different characters and a lot of improvisation, which is kind of I'm very organic and kinesthetic in that way. And so they kind of fed into what I wanted to do. And then I kind of grew out of that. The last children's theater play I did was called Forever Free, the Black
Oh,
South Carolina Regiment. It was a story about the Black Regiment in the
wow.
Civil War.
Yeah.
And so I played this guy named Yakko, and I got my equity card doing that. I
Mm.
have a story about that to remind me. Um,
Gonna write that
but
down. Yago.
I moved. We got married in 2007.
Hmm.
I had a great living situation in Brooklyn. But I knew as I got married, I couldn't continue that situation, and so we were looking for a spot. It was just too expensive. But I had my uncle had a rent controlled apartment in South Pasadena, $300 a month, one
Whoa.
bedroom. Yeah, I know, right? So he said we can live there. So we moved there, and we did that for a year, and then we
Mm.
decided to get into property management. And so we were managing
Smart.
property while we were acting. I was working at Beverly Hills High as a textbook coordinator.
Mm.
Um, Tinashe was pretty much handling the day to day building stuff. And we did a few plays here and there, not a lot of TV, just we moved there right before the last strike.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I did more plays in LA than I did in New York. I
Isn't
did
that
more
funny?
challenging plays in LA.
Yeah.
And it's not commercial theater, so it doesn't get pumped up. But there's
No.
more theater in LA. Well, I don't know. It's probably changed with the 99 seat contract.
Yeah, the new contract has kind of messed it up, but
Yeah, but I did more challenging theater in LA than
mm.
I did in New York. Because in New York, you move to New York to not be in New York because all the regional theaters audition there. So I was always out of town 6 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I did Jim of the Ocean, August Wilson twice in LA. I did
Wow.
a play called Neighbors where I had to perform in blackface. I did Raisin in the Sun. I did this play called Blood and Thunder, which was around Hurricane Katrina. We took that to
Ooh.
Alaska. I just did yeah, and so I applied for a job to teach. I've always been an educator, a professor since I got my MFA,
Mm.
and there was a job that came open at Spelman College, and so I applied for that job at Spelman College, and subsequently got it. And I knew there was theater here, but I didn't know that there was this burgeoning film and television industry here.
Mm.
And so I always say that we left New York too early, we got to LA too late, but Atlanta was right on time in
Yeah.
terms of where our resumes were, our skill sets were. Um, I mean, I I work more than I auditioned in LA for TV and film. So
What?
99%, yeah, yeah, 99% of the things that I do here um, are filmed here in Atlanta.
Mm.
Uh, but they're mostly black themed shows, right? So the in LA, I found because of where I was in my career, my age, I was just up against people who have been doing it and recognizable names and faces.
Right.
So I wouldn't even get in the door. But here, it wasn't about that. You know, most of the roles were supporting roles,
Hmm.
taking the story along. I'm not taking too much focus. But that's changed in the last few years. Now I'm getting a few more bigger roles, larger roles. So yeah.
So what was that like first? Because there's a couple specific ones I want to talk about, but what was the first show that you filmed in Atlanta that you were like, oh dang, like this is gonna kick me off. Like this specific TV show is gonna help the trajectory of my career.
Well, you always hope, right? You
Right.
think you do something.
You hope
So
every one of them does it.
you know what I mean? I did the first big thing I booked, which was within my second year here. I think it was Goosebumps, the movie with Jack Black,
Yeah.
uh, and I just thought that was going to do something for me. And I don't think it moved the needle in terms of my popularity or even my quote. But what it did do is it proved to casting directors that I'm dependable
Right.
and that I'll show up and do my job,
Hmm.
and I come with a lot of experience. You
Well,
know,
yeah, it's like a perfect little reference almost. Like your resume is really your references. Here's the people that I have worked for.
yeah, yeah, and especially if you get hired more than once, right?
Hmm.
So that was the big thing, the first big thing, and then I thought that sure, I need to look at my resume.
Okay, well, I will tell you because
Tell me,
there's
you tell
several
me.
ones that I want to talk about, but The Haunting of Hill House was like one of my favorite television shows ever made. I mean, I think Mike Flanagan is a flippin' genius.
Yeah.
So I would love to know what that set was like and what that experience was like for you.
You know, I don't scare easily, but I don't like things. I'm a brother, so I don't like things popping up out of corners. And so what they were doing on set, what they just had these. If you go back and watch it, they had like ghosts just in the
Oh yeah.
just
Oh,
just hanging out.
this is one of the few series I've watched like 3 or 4 times over because
Really?
I think it's just the artistry that is weaved throughout it is so stunning because you're always finding something new.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I did that audition. It was a late night audition. It was like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and at the time I wore glasses. You know, I've
Mm.
had LASIK since, but I remember being frustrated with myself because it was like 15 pages,
Mm.
and I couldn't remember it all, and I was using the script in my glasses. I remember being frustrated by that, but I think they got me the role because I made my character. I could make my glasses a character choice. You know, taking
Right.
them off, looking through them, looking over them. Um, but Mike told me he's like, yeah, you were my first choice. So
Wow.
it was, and I was already a fan of his work. You know, I
Yeah.
had been Hush is like one of my favorite
Oh my gosh,
movies, right?
such a great film.
Yeah,
So good.
and
Such
I was
a
showing it to
cool
students.
concept.
Yes, amazing. And she was his wife. She was so
Yeah.
amazing in that movie, right?
She's
I
incredible.
could not get enough of that movie. So unfortunately for me on Hill House, I didn't get to work with a lot of the cast, but I was
Yeah.
sitting there and excuse me, I was sitting across from Henry Thomas. I'm like,
Mm.
this is Elliot. I'm sitting across from
E.T.
Elliot, right? And then prior to that, I just shot Cobra Kai. I was sitting
Right.
across from Daniel LaRusso. I'm sitting, you know, and I'm living my whole childhood dream right here, never thinking that I could do what they did, and here I am acting with them.
Yeah.
It was a realization for me, all in Atlanta. It
Mm.
was a realization for me that I have been manifesting this thing, or I am and rather my mother and father specifically prayed for my success, but they always prayed for my coverage. And so
Mm.
in my life, I'm benefiting off of people's prayers for me, including my wife's prayers for me. These are these are my these are my dreams, but I've never been good about manifesting my dreams, and I'm learning to do that now. To speak life, to power into the things that
Yes.
I want, because I have
I
always
feel
been the
that.
biggest naysayer. You know,
Well, I feel that it's hard. It's hard as an artist to keep that positivity and, manifest in that way because, like you said, we hear no all the time. Every day is a no.
all
A
the
different
time.
no for a different thing. And so
Yeah,
it's difficult to speak it into reality and to say, no, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to end up. And this is where, what I'm doing next and how I'm getting
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But
I think
it sounds like you have found a good balance with it.
I think I have. I think I have. I think that artists are superheroes. You know, true
Yeah.
artists are superheroes because we are making choices and hoping that they're received
Mm-hmm.
by whoever. We're always looking for acceptance, but we have so much rejection that I don't sweat the rejection. You
No.
know, some people might have to lock the medicine cabinets, but I use now. I've gotten to the point. It was shortly after I moved here. It's been maybe why LA didn't work for me at the time was I wouldn't I didn't know how to let go of things I auditioned for.
Yeah, that's a
Now
tough lesson to learn.
it's a numbers game now. So if I do an audition, I can memorize about a page a minute. Um, if I got an audition now, I can have it recorded and sent within an hour.
Yeah.
And that's the skill set. I just shot something in New Orleans, and I mean, I got to set that day with the papers yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I came. They were already rehearsing my scene. I just had to jump right in.
Yeah.
It's Paula Patton. You know, it's not just jump in and do the work. You can't be mesmerized by somebody's stardom or beauty. You have to
Right.
go in and do the work,
Go
and
do the
then
work.
let them be moved by your work, and then now you're on the same page.
I think it's also important too for actors who are listening to this to know that you should be, in my opinion, it's better to do that self-tape audition right away. If you are
Right away.
at home and you have it, do it right away. The longer
Yeah,
you sit on it, the longer that you read it, the longer that you get like obsessive over it.
yeah,
Not only does it take away like the realness that you're going to bring to the character, but it also starts to create this message in your head where it's like I need to book this, I need to book this, I need to book this, because the longer that it sits there,
yeah.
the more you're going to become attached.
I used to psych myself out going to audition rooms, and I would get there early, and then I start sizing up the competition. That would throw me off.
That's wrong. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. You know, get there.
That's
You're
rough.
supposed to get there. Stay. You know, it's not a reunion.
Yeah.
If you want to hang out with me, we can hook up after the audition.
Right. Text me
But
after.
you are not going to throw me off in this room.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But we also sell merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell and grow at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. They have an all-in-one e-commerce platform and in-person POS system, so wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. With the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers. Shopify has allowed us to share something tangible with the podcast community we've built here, selling our beanies, sweatshirts, and mugs to fans of our shows without taking up too much time from all the other work we do to bring you even more great content. And it's not just us. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify is also the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/REALM now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm. You can shop from anywhere doing pretty much anything. You might shop while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast. And however you shop, we all know and love the thrill of the hunt. But do you also know how to get the thrill of the best deals? Because Rakuten shoppers do. With Rakuten, they get the deals they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Sephora, Nike, and even Expedia if you're looking to get some travel in. And getting cash back doesn't mean you have to miss out on sales because those can just be stacked right on top. It's easy to use and based on a simple idea. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back through PayPal or check. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's RAKUTEN.
So you briefly touched on Cobra Kai, but I also want to bring up what I think is one of HBO's best shows ever, which is Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
I thought that show was like the most, I don't even know. I mean, I had read the book, and it's difficult to have imagined that they could do what they did. And when they didn't get a second season, I was like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. I don't know what Misha's working on. Misha Green, the creator, I don't know what she's working on now, but she's brilliant.
Brilliant.
It was the second time I worked with her. I worked with her on Underground as well.
Wow. Yeah.
And she didn't get a third season, and it should have, right?
Yes.
So these Black stories that she's telling that have never been told the way that they're being told, I think that there are mechanisms out there that are trying to stifle the storytelling. Because for Lovecraft Country, I mean, essentially the show is saying that it all starts with us. It all starts with Black. And there is a superpower to us that you're trying to get. You're trying to get the melanin. And so you're telling this story. People don't want to see that. Or they're afraid to see that, especially in this climate that we're in now. And I'm hopeful still that there will be some type of unifying thing to where people will appreciate the human race. Just be altruistic. Think about the other person more than you think about yourself.
Yeah.
And if everybody's doing that, then we're all doing that work.
Well, and that show, it really, like you said, it had this. It was entertaining if you didn't want to find the deeper message, right? You could just watch it to watch it.
Yes.
But there was this beautiful storytelling underneath, just the spectacle of the magic and the other stuff that was happening. And I felt like it was such an awe-inspiring way to tell a like fantastical scientific fantasy story.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so upset when it got canceled, because I was like, there's no reason that this should have happened. this needs all the seasons. I want to watch all of them.
I want to watch all of them. Imagine I shot that scene. It was a day we shot. It was 2 days. I think it was 2 days. But I didn't have any other papers. They just gave me that scene.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the show was about.
Oh my God.
I didn't read the source material before. So you're playing the circumstances of the moment. You're playing it as truthful as you can. And then when the show came out, I was like, oh my God, I'm in this. I'm glad for me. My character didn't need to know all the other stuff.
Right.
And I think as an actor, it probably would have thrown me off thinking about the hyper realism or the magical part of it. No, I am a man who probably fought in a war who's protecting his family. That's it. And so yeah, the episode 8
Yeah.
was it's funny, it's interesting. Episode 8 of Lovecraft Country and episode 8 of Watchmen both revolved around Tulsa
Oh
in
yeah.
the riots, in the
I
massacre
mean,
on Cobra
yeah,
Kai.
that episode with the Tulsa riots was, I mean, I remember just watching it with like my jaw on the floor essentially,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's probably, I still haven't watched Watchmen. So for me, I
Oh,
think that was the first time I had seen a representation of the Tulsa riots, massacres.
mm,
And I was just left in complete shock. And then I went down the rabbit hole of what actually happened in Tulsa. And I was like, oh my God. Like,
right.
I didn't learn
And
about that in school.
that's just one community. That's just one.
Right. Right.
Can you imagine? I was sitting on my deck a few months ago, and I was just sitting there enjoying, having some wine. And I was talking to my friend. I said, there was a time in the world where a white guy could just come up on here and say, "This is mine. You
Mm,
have to get out." What? Who gives anybody the right to? I'm just enjoying life. So when I think about Black Wall Street and what happened to those people,
yeah.
there's something so evil
Yeah.
about not liking someone because they have more than you, or they seem to have more than you. Anyway, hey, happy
No, I
time.
mean, it's, no, it's, truth that needs to be talked about so that it's regular to talk about it.
I don't think we can get past it if we don't talk about it.
Right.
I just don't. It's part of the history.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great documentary on Netflix right now. Probably should. I mean, we're on a podcast, but Who We Are, Jeffrey
Who we
Robinson,
are.
Who We Are, and it goes into the entire history of anti-blackness and
Mm,
white supremacy in this country. And it's not condemning. It's just understanding we're at this tipping point when King was shot, and then it all just kind of rolled back down. We were
yeah.
making strides, and then we have not been able to get
Mm-hmm.
back to that point now. And so you should watch it.
Well,
It's really good.
I'm definitely going to. It goes back. I'm currently back in college, and I just did a
Are you? Are you?
yeah.
What are you studying?
I'm studying political science. So
Oh
easy
wow!
peasy. But I just had a history class, modern European history class, and we talked a lot about historical revisionism in
Hmm.
this course, and it's interesting to even watch it like happening in real time right now. These weird revisionist theories that are just constantly being told like it's reality, and it's just so,
Right.
it's so crazy to me. And so much of what I feel like kids learned in school, especially like at my age and younger or older, there was so much revisionism, so much that we didn't learn, that everyone just kind of like skip past.
It's over. Yeah.
Oh, it ended, slavery ended, we're fine,
Yeah.
great, move
So,
on.
oh, you,
What?
you gotta watch. I mean, you gotta watch this thing. This one guy holding a Confederate flag, and saying it's not any had nothing to do with slaves.
Ooh.
He said they were happy. They were like family. Okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
great. Fantastic.
that's another
Okay.
podcast. That's the
Yeah,
political
yeah,
science
no,
podcast we're gonna
that's
do.
gonna be a different one. um, okay, well, to move on from that,
But that's the
on
kind of
this
work we have
show,
to do, though. I'm
it
sorry. I'm
is.
sorry. Right. So, because most of the stuff I do is in grounded in blackness. All the show, Black Lightning,
Mm-hmm.
Lovecraft Country,
Mm-hmm.
even Cobra Kai. I'm a black character in that world, so
Yeah.
I can't really not talk about race because it's a major part of how I identify, how people identify me.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, and it's like you said, we have to talk about it.
yeah,
We need
yeah,
everybody to be like, cool, got it.
yeah.
And if we
Well,
don't
thank you
talk
for the
about it,
space. I
of
appreciate
course,
you.
of
I
course.
appreciate you.
Um, so on the show, we like to share audition stories.
Uh-huh.
So that can be bad ones, it can be sad ones, it can
Mm.
be the one that got away. Is there one that you would like to share with the listeners?
Sure. So I was doing a play at a now defunct theater in the Midwest, and the day before tech rehearsal, I was released from the contract. I was the lead in the show, the Shakespeare show,
Oh,
Devastating, devastating. The way it was done was it was devastating. Almost like, oh, I can't do this. I have other skills. So I drove back to New York, and I did I went to Actors Connection, where they, bring in casting directors. You can
Yeah.
pay a fee to meet the casting director and do a monologue. Well, James Caleri was coming in. Very hard to get him, but they had one spot that became available. I'm like, oh, this is Kismet. And I knew he was casting a Raisin in the Sun that they were doing at Harper Stage. Right? So it's very strategic. Um, and so I went in and I did a monologue. And he said, I was the last one to go. He said, huh. He said, I'm casting a Raisin in the Sun, right? I said, yes, I do. He said, can you come in tomorrow and meet the director for a callback? I said, yeah. He said, it's Surrette's guy. I said, I know Surrette, because Surrette had just directed my wife, my girlfriend at the time, in a play, right?
Oh my gosh.
So I go in, and she's like, oh, hey, Keith, I said, hey. So I do the scene, do it one time. I had a hat on, I did this stuff, and she was like, oh, wow, gosh, that was great. That was great. Thanks for coming in, Kevin. Like, oh God. I said, no problem. And I left. And she called me Kevin. I was so bad she forgot my name. Lord Jesus, what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do? So I left. I left. A few weeks go by. I'm like, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I would hear something. So I call casting and I said, hey, just wondering if you all have completed casting yet. And she says, your manager didn't call you? You booked it. I said, no, she didn't call me. Great. I'm on
What?
cloud nine. I'm on cloud nine. I'm doing it. And so I get the job and I still had to pay my manager. Um, but it's funny. It's funny. The job I got released from, I I was doing a show in Jersey at Keene University, Premier Stages. I was doing their first show, and my oldest son was with me. I came into the city to do this audition for this play, Winter's Tale. And I came in and did it. She gave me some adjustments, went outside, came in, and I left. And within 5 minutes, I get a call from her offering me the job.
Oh my gosh.
I was her. I was the last. Again, I was the last person that she saw that day. Um, but that job didn't work out. But I think everything worked out the way it's supposed to because this other job that I got, Raising in the Sun, I have lifelong friends from that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't really talk to anybody from that other show. You know. But these Billy Eugene Jones, Warner, Joseph Miller, Linda Gravatt. I mean, just really, really good close friends. Actually, I just saw Billy a couple weeks ago. So, everything happens for a reason.
That is correct. Yes, everything does. Everything does. And I'd just like to touch on the fact that you were the last to go in for both auditions. I've always thought that if it's an in-person audition, it's always best to be either the first or the last. You either want to set the bar or you want to get them when they're worn down.
I don't like going in last. I think that they're
Really?
tired. No, and I don't like going in first either. It's the start of the day. When I direct too, right? So I'm a professor, I'm a director, producer. So I direct, and when I bring actors into a room, I want to see what their first take at it is, give them a slight adjustment, if any,
Mm-hmm.
and then converse
Mm.
because we're spending time together. We're spending 4 to 5 weeks together,
So much
and I
time.
just got to know you're gonna play nice in the sandbox with me and with the other team, creative team, and everything else is negotiable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have to have some talent, but that's a dime a dozen. It's just really, especially being an actor, so subjective. I think our art form is people think it's the most accessible one because mainly because of television, because you can create some great performances in the editing room, right?
Yeah.
But I think the true balance, the truth teller is stage, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to sustain the character on stage. And so I am very interested in knowing what somebody is going to bring to the process. Because I shot Sacrifice yesterday, and there was no conversation about character development. I was expected to
Right.
come in just know what I'm going to do, but with theater, you have to be able to converse with people and
Yeah.
challenge people if they're going to challenge you. And so you have to spend some time with them in the rehearsal in the audition room to see where they are and how they
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yep. I think I say it almost every episode, but it's the truth. If you ever feel like something's wrong with your acting and you don't know what you're doing anymore, you have to go back to theater. You got to go back to the stage. You got to figure it out. You got to work it out. You got to spend the time, put it in the
Yeah.
work.
Or transition. You
Yeah.
know, so I think that a lot of people are told like I can't sit at a piano and start playing.
Right.
Right. Um, Acting is not given the same reverence, um, but it should
Mm-hmm.
because it's difficult to embody
Mm-hmm.
uh, the realness and the I think people are four dimensional, um, and I think that the people who really are attuned to that and really care about the human condition are probably the best artists because they're paying something every time they do it.
Yeah.
Uh, Folks who want to be entertainers or famous, there's room for that too. But there's also a lane. Stay in that lane,
Mm-hmm.
and this work that like the work we did on Lovecraft Country. That's a whole different lane.
Yeah.
That's a whole different lane. Even on Cobra Kai. I mean, the work that those kids have been doing that show for 5 years. They've grown up on that show. They are amazing artists, amazing artists,
Mm-hmm.
but they do the work.
Mm-hmm.
They do the work.
Speaking of doing the work, let's talk a little bit about your new show, Terror Lake Drive
Terra Lake Drive,
on All Black.
black female. Yeah.
Tell me all about it.
Well, Jerry Lamont is my man. He is the he and his partner Kawana Marie. They created this show, and it was one of the first shows, if not the first show, to shoot in Atlanta during the pandemic, the first season, right? And so I remember I think I auditioned for the first season, didn't get it, but it was everybody was curious what they were going to do, you know. And then Tyler Perry had his, but Tyler Perry could afford to create a bubble and just have
Right.
everybody, on site and staying the night or whatever. Terror Lake Drive can't do that, you know. And so when I watched the first season, it was I thought it was well done. I thought and not even just considering what we were going through. I thought it was a well done suspenseful series.
Mm,
I did not know where it was going. I did not know it was going to be talking about mental health and depression and so this second season when I was offered the role of the captain, which I get a lot of now, this authoritative kind of character. I was just excited to have an arc.
yeah.
Um, it's probably the most episodes I've done of a series thus far. I think seven. You know, but like my first day there, long scenes,
Yeah.
and I love the pressure of script changes on set and figuring that out. And Jerry just gave us space to explore. Most of my scenes were with Michael, and he's a really. It's nice to do a scene with a really good actor.
Yeah.
Somebody who is there with you, who's willing to play, who can be physical if you need them to be physical. And so the show is scary a little bit. It's going to get scarier. It's ominous. Um, and I was also excited about working with my friend Pascal Armand, who's the lead in the show.
Mm.
I've known Pascal. I met Pascal when I did A Raisin in the Sun in Hartford.
And it all comes full circle, y'all.
See what I'm saying? She came to see somebody else, and I met her, and I was like, "Who is this beautiful Haitian sister?" And it was her, and we've been friends ever since. And she does some great work. She's a Tony nominated actor.
Amazing.
I've been a fan of her work for a long time, so it's nice to see her in front of the camera doing the work. So yeah, Terror Lake
And
Drive
both
is
of you, working together and succeeding together and making art
yeah,
together. Again,
yeah,
amazing.
it's been
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm so happy that I got to talk to you today. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up with all of the wonderful things that you're doing?
well. Before I answer that question, I have one more story.
Oh, you do?
Do I have time for one more story?
Yes, you do. Of course.
Okay, so remember I was telling you the story about being in Forever Free, the Black South Carolina Regiment.
Oh, wait, yes.
That
Okay, we're going back. Yako, right?
going back. So I did that play, right? And we toured. I mean, we went to small towns, right? So I like to ask people where they're from. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm from a town. You don't know it." I said, "Try me." So one of my students at the time, his name is D'Anthony Shaw. He said, "You don't know where I'm from." I said, "Where you from, man?" He said, "I'm from Paducah, Kentucky." I said, "I've been there. I said, I've actually performed there." He said, "No, you haven't." I said, "I performed at a convention center there." He said, "What?" I said, "I saw my first play there. Maybe you want to be an actor." I said, "What was the play?" He said, "I can't remember the name of it, but there was a scene where they were doing this quarterstaff thing, and this guy turned around and he flipped the guy over his back." And I said, "That was me flipping the guy over the back." He said, "What?"
Oh my God.
I said, "Yeah, that was me, man." So
Oh my God.
I love intersections like that. You never know who you're impacting.
Kismet.
You never know. I could have been a jerk that day. I could have had a bad day. But the thing that happened was I inspired somebody to pursue a life in this art. Now, whether he did that or not, or still doing it, it's questionable. But I got a chance to cast him in a couple of things while he was in college here, and I mean, he was one of the first students I met when I got to campus. He was having financial difficulties. I walked him over to Morehouse, and not knowing that this man had seen me 10 years earlier in a play,
and that you had made such an impression on him and his life. And just from that one play. And that's what's so beautiful about what we do, is that
it's so beautiful.
We can touch someone in front of a screen or someone on stage or, thousands of miles away, and just one thing can change how they feel about certain things or what they feel about themselves. It's so stunning. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks for that story.
Of course. Thank you for sharing it.
So people can find me everywhere. Keith Arthur Bolden. That's my handle on all social media platforms. So use Instagram mostly and Facebook. Twitter a little bit, but I like to really know what people are thinking. So I like Facebook because people post and write things still.
Yeah, they write paragraphs. I've so enjoyed talking to you, and I cannot wait to see all of the fantastic things that you accomplish and make and continue to, let your light shine through. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you again to Keith for coming on the show. Watch his new TV series, Terror Lake Drive, on All Black. I'm very excited to watch it. I love a good murder mystery. Is it a murder mystery? I guess it kind of is. I'm very excited to watch it, and I'm so excited to see what Keith does because, gosh, what a beautiful soul he has. I felt like, when you talk to somebody and like their joy and kindness gets into your body and you feel like this elation. That's how I felt talking to him. I felt like I was like in a bubble. Great. Well, everyone, tune in next week. We have another fantastic guest on the show next week. She is the star of a Disney series that is currently on Disney Channel. And make sure to give us some love. And as always, thanks for coming in.
The thing that I fought tooth and nail to bring my son into is Dungeons and Dragons. That is the ultimate solution to parenthood.
I'm Alexis Ohanian. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. I talked to Rainn Wilson. I wanted to learn more about Rainn's advice to play D&D with your kids. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.